Hello, all, and welcome to another edition of the Merlo Minute, which will not be a minute. It'll be more like 30 minutes, unless I really don't get everything off my chest about the New York football Giants and all the other things around the NFL. But, I will come on here right now and do this. I wasn't on this week's episode of The Hard Line. I had some other commitments I had to be at, but I did want to just get my view on the New York Giants and this whole mess. And I already know the title of this. It'll be the Merlo Minute, and it'll be the Giant Debacle. That's what the episode is going to be titled. You'll see it when you click on it. But hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I know I did. It was a great day, a lot of football, and the football wasn't too bad. It wasn't that bad of a day football-wise. And Black Friday today, a lot of college games on. I actually have the Colorado game on right now, which we're going to talk about Colorado football coming up in just a little bit. But I do have this game on here, and at the moment they're up 21-0. So Shedeur Sanders is playing well, and the whole Colorado team is playing well. But we will start with the Giants here, and that's really will be the main focus. We may touch on Eberflus and Caleb Williams at the end, as Eberflus was just fired. But what I really wanted to come on here and talk about was give my take on the Giants, because this week I wasn't able to be on the podcast, and there's been a lot said about what's gone on with the Giants over the past couple of weeks, and I do want to get my say out there. So the one thing I will say about the whole Daniel Jones thing, and that's where we'll start, and then we'll kind of bring this to more should Daboll and Shane return. The one thing I'll say about Daniel Jones, because it is old. He's a Viking now, right? He's no longer a Giant, done with. The one thing I'll say about Daniel Jones is if anybody, whether it's a fan, a media member, somebody in that locker room, if you thought that Daniel Jones did not deserve to be benched, okay, just take everything out of it. Watch the guy play this season. If you thought that player did not deserve to be showed the bench, then you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know football, because that guy cannot play football. And it's really sad because Daniel Jones has the physical traits. I think he does. He has the physical traits. He's a big kid, okay? He can throw the ball downfield, can't throw it accurately, but he has an arm, a good enough arm to throw the ball downfield, right? A powerful arm, okay? He's fast. He can run. And like I said, he's a big kid, but he just doesn't have it mentally. He does not have the mental traits to be quarterback. And that's why I don't think there's any situation that he could go to. He might have been to, he might have went to the best situation you could possibly go to as a quarterback, as a struggling quarterback in Minnesota. And I don't think there's anything Kevin O'Connell can do. I just think this kid doesn't see the field the right way, doesn't see the field as smart as he is. He doesn't see the field the way an NFL quarterback should see the field. And that's the biggest problem. That's his biggest problem. So again, you watch Daniel Jones and these players, and I went on this rant on the Sunday recap on Sunday. Like if you think that Daniel Jones deserves to be benched, what sport are you watching? What sport are you watching? Regardless of the injury guarantee, which, by the way, the Giants are getting killed in the media for benching the guy with an injury guarantee. Did we not see what happened last season with the Broncos and Russell Wilson? Sure, a different situation. This guy wasn't drafted by the team, and he's up there in age and whatnot. But Russell Wilson had an injury guarantee, and Russell Wilson was playing well. 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions before he got benched last season by the Denver Broncos because of an injury guarantee. And everybody knew it was the injury guarantee. They said it was the injury guarantee. So, you know what? The Giants did the right thing. A, they benched the quarterback that deserved to be benched. And B, they no longer are going to be on the hook for a possible injury guarantee next year that would keep him on the roster. But it's New York, and things get overblown in New York, and it's a brutal situation. And then you have the players speaking out on it. Like, it's clear the players don't respect the general manager. Maybe not. Maybe they respect the coach, but they don't respect the general manager. That's for sure. And that's an issue. But Daniel Jones deserved to be benched. The Giants made the 110% right decision in benching him, and yet they got killed. It was like a no-win situation because, the media will tell you he's terrible, he sucks, they shouldn't have given him the contract, whatever. Okay, so they cut him to make sure it's no more than a 2-year guarantee in terms of money, and the Giants are the bad guys, and they did him wrong, and this and that. Okay, there was no win for the organization. There was clearly no win. It's not just on the quarterback. I'll give you that. It's on the general manager for constructing a bad football team. It's on the offensive line for not being good enough. It's on the defense for not having any takeaways, any interceptions in 10 games. That's unheard of. Unheard of. 11 games, after yesterday. They're an embarrassment. It's a terrible, terrible football team. Yes, they're banged up, but they don't have any depth, and they weren't that good before they were hurt. The one thing I will say, their offensive line actually looked like a competent offensive line before they lost a couple of guys. I will say that. But they lost so many guys on this offensive line. And early round draft pick, second round draft pick, JMS, center, might be one of the worst centers in football. Evan Neal is a colossal bust, one of the biggest busts in Giants history. It's a terrible job. It's a terrible, terrible job. And the Giants, as an organization now, this isn't just a Dave Gettleman problem and a Jerry Reese problem. This is now a John Mara organizational issue. They haven't drafted offensive linemen in almost 2 decades. They haven't done a good job of they've drafted one offensive lineman. Now, he's an elite offensive lineman, but one guy that is playable and just worth the draft pick, and that was Thomas, obviously. It is a colossal disaster within this organization. They have pieces on offense. They're close on offense, I think. But man, is it a mess. It is an absolute mess. They're 2-10. They lose to Dallas on Thanksgiving. After the Tampa game, you had the players in the locker room, Dexter Lawrence and Malik Neighbors and a lot of other guys saying that they played soft and that, they just didn't do a good job, right? Clear. They got blown out. And DeVito started that game. They did. I can't tell you if they played soft or not. I wouldn't know that. But that's what the player said. The player said they played soft. The fact that those things are being said after a loss, after the bye, is a major, major issue. A major issue. Now, were the players so upset that their friend Daniel Jones got benched and ultimately released that they were kind of showing the coaching staff and front office up? I have no clue. I wouldn't know that. I don't think so. I would hope not. These guys play 17 games a year, and all these games count, and all these games go on to film. So I would hope not. But they said they played soft. I question a lot of the leadership in the locker room. You want to talk about Dabo losing the locker room. I don't think there's much leadership in the locker room. I mean, I love Dexter Lawrence, and it's sad news that today we found out he's going to miss the rest of the season. But I question Dexter Lawrence's leadership. I really do. Defending Daniel Jones the way he defended him. I get it's your friend. Take the friendship out of business here. Take it out completely. I understand you want to try and win games, and you want to do everything you can to put your best foot forward. Is there really an argument? Like, yes, gun to my head, is Daniel Jones better than Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito? Sure. But is he that much better where it's egregious that he's being benched? No, absolutely not. And by the way, if Drew Lock had a full week to prep against Dallas, maybe he beats Dallas. But Drew Lock didn't have any full goes in practice with the ones. he found out a day before a short week game, a Thursday night game that he's going to play. Like, Drew Lock kept them, he turned the ball over a couple of times, but he kept them competitive in the football game. There have been much worse games with Daniel Jones on prime time. I'll tell you that much. So for Dexter Lawrence to be so adamant about Daniel Jones and how the best guy is not starting, like, shut up, Dex. Shut up. That's not your call. And if anybody watching football who knows anything about football can tell you, hey, Daniel Jones deserves to be benched. He deserved to be benched a very long time ago. And as if he got mistreated by the organization. The guy got paid $108 million in his career. The biggest waste of $108 million I could ever think of. I would rather light it on fire than watch another snap of Daniel Jones again. That's how bad he was. So please, enough of this. Woe is me. Woe is Daniel. Enough. This is a terrible football team. And I'm usually not a proponent for tanking, man. I was happy, sort of, in the midst of a run that Tommy DeVito took them out of, getting Drake May or Jaden Daniels in 2023. Because it showed there was a culture building. It showed that the players still believed in themselves and believed in the coach. And that the roster wasn't as bad as you thought and they were moving in the right direction as an organization. That's how I felt after going 6-11 last season. And, you know, if you reversed a few of those one-score games, you're in the playoffs with 3 different quarterbacks. I mean, that's how I genuinely felt. And man, did it go backwards. It went completely backwards. And you know what the biggest difference was later in the year? Was that Daniel Jones wasn't playing quarterback compared to early in the season and this season when he was. They were 3-13 in his last 16 games since he got the contract. Again, tell me the guy didn't deserve to be benched. Tell me he didn't with a straight face, Dex. Please. And now the question about whether or not Shane and Dable should come back. I don't know. Gun to my head, I think Dable's going to be a good coach. Gun to my head, I think Dable goes elsewhere and is a good head coach somewhere. I do. But is his message gone? I mean, the players that are going to be here going forward, can they believe in him? Can players that are brought in here, can they believe in him? They hired an imbecile defensive coordinator who would have to be brought back if Dable's back next year, because you can't change the coordinator again because it just proves more of the issue that nobody wants to work with Brian. So Dable probably has to bring Bowen back. Do you bring Dable back? I mean, that's the biggest question. I think I would. I mean, I'm watching Shedeur Sanders here. I want Dable to have his chance with a quarterback that not named Daniel Jones or Tommy DeVito. I would like to see that happen. Now, we know about the reports that came earlier in the season when it didn't seem like there was a chance Shane and Dable would get fired, that John Mara had come out and said, I want stability. He almost essentially guaranteed them another year. And I believe that. I believe him. Now, things can change. I'm sure in the middle of the 2021 season, he thought he was bringing Joe Judge back. And he fired him. So it's no guarantee, but I think they're back. I think Shane's back. I'll tell you why I think Shane's back. Joe Shane cannot get enough of the University of Colorado. Joe Shane and his constituents, his assistants, are constantly at Colorado watching Shedeur Sanders. They were at practice this past week, talking it up with Dion. They've been at multiple Colorado games. They were at Colorado games last season. They clearly have a guy that they have total conviction in. And they probably need the number 1 or number 2 overall pick, depending on who has number 1, to get this guy. And that shouldn't be difficult now with all the plethora of injuries that they have and who's playing quarterback. They shouldn't have the issue getting the number 1 pick. But they have fallen in love with a guy. And that's Shedeur Sanders. They have fallen in love with Shedeur Sanders. Now, this is an interesting situation because Dion, I believe, is going to have his choice as to where his son plays. He is going to have a say in where Shedeur plays. Okay? They're playing Oklahoma State right now. And I don't think there's ever been a worse team constructed than Oklahoma State. They are so bad. And I have Colorado. I have the over in the game. I have Colorado alternate minus 9.5 or whatever. They're up 21, and Oklahoma State can't stop making stupid penalties. Whatever. I digress. But they have their guy. Dion's going to have his choice as to where his son goes. And if there was any questions about the stability of the organization, right? If Dion knew that there was a chance that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, the two people in charge right now of the organization, would no longer be with that team, I think Dion would shut down the operation. I think Dion would say, hey, we're not going to come to you unless we have a choice at head coach. I think they're back because you wouldn't like the intense amount of yes, it's his job to scout no matter what. But they clearly have their guy. And Joe Shane can sell to John Mara, hey, I was part of the group that brought in Josh Allen. And I know what our coach could do with a quarterback of this talent, of this ilk. And if you give us more time and allow us to draft this quarterback, I'm telling you the organization will change. Can John Mara be sold on that? Does John Mara want to stomach another hiring cycle? It's not the strongest one, by the way, especially for offensive play callers and offensive gurus. It's not a strong one. I think if you throw Daboll out there, I think he gets head coaching interviews. He might get hired. He might get hired in a year from now. I believe that. I believe he's respected around the league. I do. Around league circles as an offensive mind, I believe he is respected. What do you do? It's a tough call. Shane's built a terrible roster. What's funny is the roster in 2022, the one he inherited from Dave Gettleman, was worse than this one. And in 2023, it got better. The roster was objectively better from 22 to 23. And I think before the season, 110%, the roster was improved again. Now, you started from so low, one of the worst, if not the worst roster in football, that the improvements are sort of minor in terms of the league scope of things. But you improved your roster. You continued to improve your roster. You added more talented players. The Giants, if they keep Daboll and they keep the stability and they draft a quarterback, they need a guard and maybe a center and then a couple of depth offensive linemen. They need another wide receiver. They need 2 corners. And you're probably competing. Now, that's a lot. That's a lot, right? That's 6, 7 players right there. But this 2-10 team, the worst in football right now, they probably aren't as far off as you believe. They probably aren't as far off as you would think. I think with the right quarterback play here, this team's not 2-10, but Are they 6-6? Are they 5-7? Possibly. The quarterback play's been that bad. Do you fire the coach? Do you fire the GM? There is more evidence to me to fire the general manager than there is the coach. And I have a solution to that. I would simply get rid of Joe Shane and elevate Brandon Brown. He is their assistant general manager. He is a young guy. He is very well respected. He's gotten GM interviews already. He's probably going to be GM in the next year or two. If you were going to make a change at GM and not coach, I would elevate Brandon Brown. That's what I would do. And there's a couple of guys in that scouting department and, higher ups like Kevin Abrams and a couple of other guys that have just been with with the organization for years and years and years that are the clear issues here because it hasn't changed in 12 years. These guys have been here and making decisions and they're still terrible, but they're friends with John Mara. They got to go. They can't be making decisions. Put them on the board. Put it in name. That's it. They cannot be making decisions here. That's my take on the Giants. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I also see the other side. Fire Daboll, fire Shane, clean house, and let's get back to Giants football, gritty football. Hire a defensive coach, build up the lines, and let's play hard-nosed football, run the football, have a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over, a game manager, and have a great defense and win. Can you do that in this league anymore? I don't think so, but you can compete. You can be better than this. What a mess. What a mess. Another mess. The Bears just fired Eberflus about 20 minutes ago. I mean, I had been calling for Eberflus. I called for Eberflus to be fired in the offseason. So, I'm ahead of this for a while. This is a mistake bringing him back here for Caleb's first year. But JM and I both agreed that it was time for Eberflus to go earlier in the season, and that rings true today. So, it's a good day for the Bears. It's a good day for Caleb Williams. I've really locked into watching the Bears the last couple of weeks. I'm very entertained by the Chicago Bears. I mean, very entertained. I think the Bears have a guy, and I was always a Caleb Williams fan. The Bears have a guy that's going to be a top 5 quarterback in this league for a very long time. Caleb Williams is going to be a stud. You could just see it. Him on Thanksgiving against that Lions team, unbelievable. He is unbelievable. They're going to be great. They're going to be one of the premier franchises. That's a tough division. That is a tough, tough division. The Lions are unbelievable. The Packers have Jordan Love, and they're 9-3 as well. They should have beat the Packers at home, and they should have went to Detroit and beat the Lions, but they have a terrible head coach, and they do the little things poorly. And now they're here, and they're 4-8. They have a quarterback where it doesn't matter what the rest of the division looks like, what the rest of the conference looks like. As long as you are competent and things are going right with the quarterback, you can beat anybody on any given Sunday. That's how good this player is. That's how good he is. He's an electric watch, one of my favorite players to watch this entire season. I've really watched him closely the last 2 weeks here. Obviously on Thanksgiving, the standalone, I had money on the Bears against the Vikings. That was an excellent football game. I was able to watch him there extensively. He's great, and they're going to be great, but they needed this. And for the first time in their history, they fire a coach midseason. So good on them. They made the right decision finally. I don't know if Poles can survive this. I think he will. But you can make the case that Ryan Poles has to go as well. So we're here with the Bears. We're here with the Giants. Bears fire the coach. I think the Giants should hold on. That's my feeling as of Friday, November 29th. but things are going to get a lot worse for the organization. And I don't know if they're going to be able to survive that. That's the biggest thing. It's not going to get better, the last 6 games of the year. It's just going to continue to get worse. Trying to see if there's anything else I have. You got the Black Friday game here coming up in a couple of hours. I'm not into it at all. I may have a bet on the game and I'll just take the points with the division double-digit dog, but I don't really have a feel in this one. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to hit before I got off of here. I should have probably thought of this beforehand, but I didn't. I didn't bring up the Cowboys when discussing the Giants. I mean, do we think the Cowboys actually have any chance here? I don't really think so. They're 5-7. Cooper Rush is the definition of a good, solid backup quarterback. Nothing else can beat bad teams. That's the thing about a backup quarterback. When you are overmatched talent-wise by a team, no matter what, your backup quarterback is probably not going to win the game. But when you have a team close to your talent or worse than you, that's when you need the backup quarterback to win games. Look at the Dolphins. The Dolphins were stuck. Skylar Thompson stunk, and then he got hurt. And then they were rolling out 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks. And they lost all those games. Imagine they had a decent backup quarterback, and they were able to win one of those football games. Now you're 6-6 instead of 5-7, and you have a better chance at the playoffs. Bet you they missed that. They wish they had that. So that's where we're at there with the backup quarterback. That's Cooper Rush. The one thing I want to end off here, I didn't have a chance to give this take on the podcast this week. Obviously, I was off. And we'll make our picks. We got to be better with the picks here, giving out the picks. We will give out the picks before Sunday. I really like a lot of these games. JM and I will actually be at the Jets game on Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. We're very excited for that. It'll be a really cool experience. Be on the field pregame. It's going to be great. The one thing I'll end off here, Detroit played a game. They probably should have lost. Short week, division opponent. Probably should have lost the game. They blew it, kind of. But whatever. I'm not worried about Detroit here, right? Their offense is so prolific. Tell you one thing right now. Philadelphia is going to catch that team. Philadelphia's going to beat that team. Whether they beat them as the 1 seed or the 2 seed, Philadelphia is going to beat that football team. Detroit, up front, offensive line. There probably isn't a better offensive line in football. But their defensive line, I don't really trust them to get a pass rush against Philadelphia. I don't really trust them to stop the run against Saquon Barkley. Philadelphia is going to bully them around offensive line-wise. And with Jalen Carter and a couple of those players on the Philly defensive line, yeah, against a great offensive line, they're still going to make plays. They're that good. Philadelphia can match up with them up front. The quarterbacks are very even. The offensive receivers, it's close. It's a great matchup. It's a hell of a matchup. But I think the fact that Philadelphia will be able to push them around up front as well, and it'll be a tight game, which Detroit hasn't played many tight games. That was the first tight game they've played in Thursday, and they almost blew it. A team that hasn't played tight games all season long, that's not a good thing. That is not a good thing. And they haven't played many tight games. I want you to be battle tested before you get to the postseason. Philadelphia's played those tight games. They've played tight games and then ran away with them early. Detroit's blowing teams out. Their defense is playing, knowing what the offense is going to do. They have to throw the ball. They're down 30 points. This isn't a knock against Detroit being too good. It's Philadelphia can match up with them pretty well. So I think Philly will beat them. I think Philly's going to be your NFC representative in the football, in the NFL, in the NFC, in the Super Bowl. What the hell did I just say? They will be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl. And that's going to be a fun NFC championship game and a fun Super Bowl. There's 4 teams right now. 4 teams right now that can 5 teams that can win the Super Bowl. 5 teams. I'll give you 5. Eagles, Lions, Bills, Chiefs, Ravens. Those are the 5 that can win the Super Bowl. Who knows? Let's see. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Thanksgiving weekend. A lot of good football games, including we have that Ravens Eagles game. We have the 49ers Bills. I don't know if Purdy's going to play. That'll be an interesting topic. I know JM and Joe touched on that, the 49ers, but I do want to talk about the 49ers a little bit next week. So I'm sure we'll talk about that. But we'll be back full next week, JM and I. Very excited for that. Be back on the pod. Happy to be able to come on and do this today. Again, enjoy your weekend. Hope everybody's Thanksgiving was well. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks so much for listening.